Hi.
Powering on. Ready to pair.
Ready for your general?
That's not a kid.
That's Ken, that's Ken, that's Ken.
Ken, you singing, Tom? Or humming something?
Uh-oh, okay.
Where the hell I am.
Hey, guys.
How's it going?
Hey.
Was you working some DX, Mark?
Hey, guys. Now I can hear you.
Was you working some DX on 17?
Do what?
Was you working DX on, you was on 20 meters, wasn't you? A day or two ago.
YouTube on, you gotta check.
Do what?
There's YouTube
Do what?
behind you.
Were you working DX on, you was on 20 meters, wasn't you?
Close the YouTube session.
A day or two ago. Was it delayed? that
Top
much?
live stream?
Do what? Minimize
Were you
that.
working DX on, you was on 20 meters? A day or two ago.
Is that it?
Was it delayed? that
Top
much?
live stream? Kill this.
There we go. Got some audio now.
You was on 20 meters.
YouTube session.
A day or two ago. Was it delayed?
Top live stream? Kill this.
There we go. I got some audio now.
I can hear you, Ken.
There you go, kill that one.
Okay.
Kill the whole thing.
And John Marshall,
There you go.
I can see you. You're kind of laid back looking.
There you go. Yeah, it opens up. You have to kill that. So
Oh,
when it
okay.
opens up YouTube, you have to kill that.
Yeah, 20's been hot. I mean, real hot.
Well, I've been up on 17 and didn't ever get down to 20. I know you told me it was doing pretty good.
Not much on 17. Not much at all on 17
Well,
lately, but 20's been,
Yeah.
wow.
So yesterday evening about this time, I worked China and South Korea and Indonesia.
That's pretty good.
You got to get it right about this time of day. There's really some good DX coming in. I've worked Philippines also, and there are so many JA stations, you just get sick of working them.
Oh, I know.
Then I was picking up Radio Miami.
Jamaica, got Jamaica today
On 20,
on 20.
good.
And I was trying to think the islands just below the Canary Islands.
Oh, Saint Helena.
Yeah, I got those.
Okay, I also worked Taiwan yesterday evening.
Wow.
That's because everybody's hearing something from Tonga.
Anybody hearing anything from Tonga?
No, I've worked them before, but not lately.
Not after the volcano.
I figure after that volcano, everything probably got covered.
Yeah,
I'll tell you one place that I cannot pick up anything, not even on 40, and that's over around Singapore.
yeah. Well, I worked Singapore last night on 17, but you got to get them just about between 5 and 6:30 is whenever that part of the world is coming in on 17. So you might try that.
In the mornings?
No, in the evening.
Oh, five
Yeah.
to 6 o'clock in the evening?
Yeah, till 5, from 5 till the band closes, which band's still wide open right now.
On 17.
17, yeah.
Okay.
And also there'll be a lot of JAs come in there if you need to work in. I worked Philippines the other day. That's been a week or so ago. And I haven't been working anybody except the good DX. And I worked Philippines, and whenever I finished working him, 5 JAs called me at one time.
Good grief.
And I started trying to work them. I got 1 or 2 of them before the rest of them gave up and quit. They're pretty impatient. You know, if you don't come back to them right away, they're gone.
Right. Right. Yeah. You got to, they want you to, when they all come in there, they want you to hit all of them at once.
Yeah. But it's been fun. I've really enjoyed it. I've had my EME station going up on one side of the ham shack and HF going on the other side. So I've been running back and forth from one to the other.
Mm-hmm.
Not much on moon bounce right now.
Well, there was a handful of them on 15 the other day, and I think there was 2 on 10,
To what?
two FT8s.
Oh yeah.
There was 2 on it on 10, and there was about, I don't know, a handful of them on 15.
Yeah.
But 17 lately hasn't been all that hot during the day like it used to. And 20's been just really, really good.
Well, I've got a screen full on 17 right now.
I never think about looking at 17 in the evenings. I guess I better start.
Yeah.
It switched because I was looking at 17 in the mornings
Yeah.
and 20 during the day. And then I switched to 40 in the evenings.
Yeah. I also worked Aruba today, which is not hard to get, but a few of the Caribbean stations was on today.
Mm-hmm.
I worked Bon Air, which I worked them a long time ago, but in the logbook of the world, back then, Bon Air and Netherlands Antilles was 2 islands that was joined together. And when they split them up, they deleted, they're no longer an entity. So I had to work Bon Air again. And I was looking through my logbook of the world, and I discovered that. And so then I decided to listen on FT8 17 meters, and darned if there wasn't a Bon Air station calling CQ. And so I worked him. So that replaced that one that they had deleted.
Oh, okay. All right. No, I just, one thing been trying to play with a little bit lately, just for the fun of it, just see if I could do it, is FL Digi.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been trying to do the BPSK 31.
Yeah.
And if I could ever get it figured out and get it set up to run pretty good, I might try it a little bit.
Yeah. I used to do that. That was back before Joe Taylor came out with any of these WSJT programs. I used to do PSK 31, and I worked Australia on 2 watts on 20 meters with PSK 31. And on PSK 31, when you're typing, if you make a mistake and backspace, the other guy on the other end can see it. So that guy was seeing a lot of my mistakes, and I was seeing a lot of his. We were both bad typers.
Oh, wow. Now, how are you using the PSK 31?
It's a keyboard thing. You can type messages in the keyboard, and the guy on the other end reads it.
What program were you using for it, though?
Mixed W.
Mixed W.
Mhm.
Is that better than FL Digi?
I don't know. It came out before FL Digity
Oh,
had it.
okay.
And I'm licensed. I paid for it. And so that's what I always stuck with.
Well,
But it doesn't matter. Any of those programs will work.
well, somebody said the other day, why are you doing FL Digi? You could do JS8 call.
I don't know.
And I don't know it at all.
So I've seen JS8 called, but I don't think it's not PSK 31. It's a different, completely different program, but it is a keyboard program where you can type and the other person can see what you're typing.
Mhm.
But that's not the same as PSK 31,
Right.
which it might be okay. And I remember some of the guys tried it whenever I was working 630 meters.
Mhm.
I know station in Washington State and another guy in Oregon tried it out, and they were keyboard talking to each other using that program.
Huh. Okay.
But another problem that you're going to have, Mark, is finding someone to talk to because everybody's on FT8.
Wow. Well, that's true. Now, I did make a call this past Saturday. I was just sitting there playing with my Yaesu FT817 ND, and I didn't have plugged in anything. It was just on the internal battery, so it was 2.5 watts. And I was tuning around 20 meter, and I stopped on 14.265. There was a guy talking to another one, and he finished, and then he threw his call back out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I threw mine out there, and he come back to me, and he said he was in California. And we talked for a little bit, and he said, "Boy, you're sounding pretty doggone strong." He said, "What do you got?" And I told him. He said, "No way." And I said, "Yeah, I'm using a little 9-to-1 balun in-fed antenna. It's only 8 foot, starts at 8 foot off the ground, goes up to 12, and using 2.5 watt radio, QRP."
Yeah.
And
That's
so we
pretty
talked.
great.
Yeah, he said it sounded really good, and he said he was had a 40-foot tower with a beam on it, and using about 75 or 80 watts on his rig. And so we talked for a few minutes, but hey, it worked.
That was on sideband?
That was on just 14.265, 20 meter. Yeah. And I just happened to hear him call. I thought, well, I'll throw my call back out there and see if he hears me. So
You're going to have a blast when 10 meters open because, man, you'll be working all over Europe and you don't need much power to do that when 10 meters is open.
Well, I wish it would finally do that. Right now, it doesn't show like it's open at all.
It opens up a little bit on FT8. I've seen a few stations on, but not much. 12's been kind of sporadic. I've worked a few on 12, but 17 is the best lately for me.
Okay.
I've got a lot of countries on 17, so it's hard for me to get a new one. I've got 180 some countries on 17 meters, so I don't see too many new ones.
Right. Well, when I was sitting there on 20 meters today on FT8, Jamaica popped up, so I thought, well, I'll just try it.
Yeah.
And he come right back to me, so I thought, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I've got mine set to where it'll highlight if a different country comes up I haven't really been trying for. And so I got him. And mostly mine was just in the States today. So
yeah. Well, get all MDX you can, no matter what band it's on.
Right.
So you can get that DXCC. And after you get DXCC, then you can start doing DXC per band. And the easiest bands get it on probably right now would be 20 meters because reactive. The problem with 20 meters there's so many people on there, it's hard to find a vacant spot to transmit.
Yeah, that's true. It's like I said, it's pretty full. It's pretty hot right now. So, oh, I find me a spot down on the lower end of FT8,
Mhm,
somewhere in about the 650 to 700 range,
mhm.
and I'll sit there and I'll just stay there.
Yeah,
And after I work somebody, wherever it drags my receive to, I bring it back to my transmit at
Yeah.
that frequency, and that's my home section.
but you
And
don't
I-
even have to bring it back. Just
No, I
call
know,
6U
but I
again,
just stay
They'll
there.
jump to the next station. But I do the same thing sometimes.
And they've been coming to me, and instead of me running up and down the band,
Yeah,
trying to find spots and stuff, I just let them come to me, because I just keep throwing my call back out there.
yeah, that's the way I do it. Lock the transmit, don't move.
Exactly. Unless I see something pop up a country I want to, or somebody, another one I want to get. And then
Well-
I'll run out there and go get them.
Okay, all you have to do is put the cursor on top of their signal and do a right click, and it'll go to there.
Yeah,
Transmit and receive both.
yeah, it does. And I'll pick him up like that Jamaica today.
Yeah.
But
Some of those islands in the Caribbean they're close to us. They're not hard to work, but there's not a lot of operators there.
no,
Cayman
Just need
Islands
one.
is another one. There's a guy in Cayman Islands. I've worked him on about 10 bands, including 630 meters. His name is Elgin, ZF1EJ. So if you ever hear him on, give him a shout. There used to be 2 or 3 hams on Cayman Islands. That's Grand Cayman. But I think it's just down to 1 or 2 now. So
wow. And every time somebody like that jumps up and they put their call out there, you got 15 or 20 or 30 from the States all run to them.
they jump right on him.
Oh yeah. So I stay away for a while till they've all worked them on that, and then I might try to go back and get him.
Just move up the band with your transmit a long ways from him, because he'll still copy you.
Oh yeah.
Just
Oh,
find
yeah.
a clear spot away from him, which means away from everybody calling him.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go see what I can get in trouble with here.
All right. Good talking.
I'll let you talk to the crowd.
Good talking to you.
Good talking to you. I'll look for you on
17.
no, I was thinking of the program on computer we always do on, and I draw a blank.
Discord.
Discord. Yeah, I'll catch you on Discord.
Yeah.
Okay.
See you later.
Bye.
Well, John, what have you been doing?
Assume you're talking about me.
What have you been up to?
Just staying inside a lot. I'm getting tired of it. Trying to stay safe.
Yeah.
But I'd enter the Zoom tonight, and hopefully I'll learn something.
Have you been doing any hamming?
Yeah, I've just got a 2-meter radio right now, or a 2-meter and 440.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to getting into HT. I realized I could do the 10-meter right now with my technician license.
Yes, you can. And occasionally, well, you can do 10 and 6. 10, 6, 2. You can do any band from part of 10 up.
I didn't know that. I could do any band on 10 up. Is it just voice only on 10?
Say again?
Can I do voice on those other ones too?
Yeah. Yes.
So I must have read my restrictions wrong. I thought I could only do the 10-meter.
I'm pretty sure that's right, isn't it, Mike? He, he can do voice on 6 meters with a technician license, can he? Yeah,
Yeah, 6 is completely open for a technician.
yeah.
And I'm on voice rest.
And 10, part of 10, what part of 10? Ken, I'm kind of out of the loop on that.
For a real challenge, you could take CW and go down to 40 and 20 and several bands you can work CW on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not winning there yet, but I'm trying.
Yeah, I've been trying to find time to study for my general exam, but boy, it seems like since I retired, I'm busy all the time.
yes, I know what you mean.
Went back to work for 6 months to get a break.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have time to work. I've been retired for a long time. A little bit older than you guys.
You know what really got me back into it? I've had my technician since 2007, but I read that book Thunderstruck about Marconi.
Yeah,
and, man, that sure motivated me to get back into it.
good. Yeah. Do you have a HF radio?
Not right now. I'm looking to buy one.
Yeah. You figured out what kind you're going to buy?
Now, I've been looking, I think is it the Yaesu 991? I was looking at that one. It seemed like a pretty decent radio for the money.
Let's see, Mike, what is yours a Yaesu, isn't it? Is it a 991? Mike might be the man to talk to here.
And I'm on voice rest tonight.
Okay. Is your Yaesu a 991?
991 Alpha.
Okay, okay. Go back to mute. Thank you, Mike. So there's the guy to talk to, John. He's got one, and he's only had it for a short time. So if you're interested in that, something like that. Another one is a Kenwood TS590. You might look at that. I think
Yeah,
they're about the same price range.
Yeah, I've got a Kenwood, what is it? THF6 tri-band handheld that I've had for almost 15 years. And it's still.
Yeah, well, there you go. That tells you the quality of it.
You know, I bought a Yaesu FT, is it FT400? And I like the radio and all. It seems like it's hard to learn their manual. For me, their manual is kind of hard to read.
Oh, their manuals, all of them manuals, hard for me to read. I have to read them over and over and over. So I just go do a YouTube and it's much easier. Hello, Bill.
Hello there. A little late tonight.
Yeah. Had to take care of them honeydews, I guess.
Well, I had to eat dinner. My wife fixed really good dinner, and I couldn't resist.
Yeah. Well, did you do anything on the antenna?
I did. I worked some today. I had been looking for a box of some sort to cover the hole that I drilled through the wall and brought the tubing through.
Yeah.
And I found one. It was screwed to the wall in the garage where the telephone company had left it behind.
How about that?
Yeah. That's really a pretty nice box. I don't know. Have you ever looked at one of those?
Yeah, but I didn't think they was very big.
Well, they're about they're about 5 or 6 inches wide and about 10 inches high. something like
Okay.
that, maybe a little bigger than that.
That's bigger than I was thinking.
Yeah, they're pretty good size. There's quite a bit of room in them, and they're a kind of a weatherproof box. They
Yeah.
have a lip seal around the
Yeah,
and in the bottom they have rubber
rubber
grommets,
Yeah.
yeah, to bring the cable in.
Mhm.
And so I drilled a 1-inch hole in it, or well, an 1.25 inch hole, so it would go over the pipe
Mhm.
and screwed it to the wall out there.
That looks pretty professional then, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's gonna work out really good. I needed something out there, but I'm still haven't figured out exactly how I'm gonna I can bring the coax in the bottom of it through one of those grommets, but then I would have to make a pretty tight bend in the coax to
Yeah.
get it to turn and go through the
Yeah,
wall. So the only thing I've figured out so far is I could put a 90-degree coax connector in there and do it that way.
yeah.
But I don't think I want to bend the coax that short of a radius is.
Yeah. Well, that's why I don't have a box on mine. I just come into the side of the brick with a 90-degree PVC and, a large diameter. You could even, do a PVC that's a slow bend, or put two 45s together. But then you got PVC showing on the outside of your house, but it don't matter on mine. One of them's on the back of the house and one's on the side of the house, so.
Well, that wouldn't really be an issue. Mine's behind the bushes, so it's on the front of the house, but it's hidden behind the shrubs, so it wouldn't be a big.
I wouldn't even put a box there. I just run PVC in. That way you can make a slow turn. You don't have to put a connector, and it'll be a whole lot easier to pull the coax.
Yeah. The only thing I was looking for was something to put a strip of MOVs for the rotator
Cable.
Yeah. And I was needing a box to put that in. The other thing I thought about was just drilling a hole in the cover, the hinged cover, and getting a grommet that would fit tied around the coax, and just running the coax straight into the PVC through a hole in the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I need to get into it, I could open the door and kind of slide the grommet back, or slide the coax back a little bit to get enough slack to open the door. I don't know. Or I could put a 90 in there.
Yeah.
90.
If it's behind a bush, I wouldn't even use that box. I'd put a 90 in there and put caulking around it to seal it, and run that coax through there. And then you can have the coax and the rotor cable in the same hole. And later, if you add another piece of coax, it'll be easier to pull through.
Yeah, it would be that for sure. If I do add coax to it, which I may, for like a 40-meter
Inverted V.
inverted V, right? Then I'd need some additional coax. I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. Seeing if I could come up with some solution. But those are nice boxes. If you ever run across one and need a weatherproof box for something outside.
It's a waterproof box. It goes outside for when you have underground cable, phone line coming up into your house. Is that
Well,
what it is?
that's what mine was for.
Mhm.
But I think they used them on the outside of houses. I don't know if they used them for, if you had drop from a pole, whether they used that same box or not. I think
Yeah,
they did,
I think so. They just had it up high. Yeah,
because it had a 2-pole lightning arrestor in it too.
yeah.
Um, which is kind of interesting. I don't know the specs on it, but
Well, I had one of those boxes. It was, I had an underground phone line coming in to my house. And when I got hit by lightning, it blew that box about 30 feet from my house.
wow. So did the phone line get hit by lightning? Is that
It
what
came
happened?
came in on the underground phone line. And of course, to my modem, it blew up the modem, and every one of the computers in the home network blew all of them up. The TV set, microwave, dishwasher, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. What a mess.
Insurance paid for most of it. It's about 7,500, something like that.
Yeah, but it's still a lot of hassle to, even if they pay for it all, you still gotta go out and find people to install the stuff or install it yourself or whatever, it's
Yeah,
just
I did it all myself.
go out and acquire new TVs and
Yeah, I did it all myself.
did it all yourself, all install and everything.
Yeah, and I built all the computers,
From scratch, huh?
home built computers. Yeah,
Yeah.
4 of them, and plus it got a laptop too.
Oh, it got your laptop too?
Yeah, it was plugged into the network.
Oh. Yeah.
And
Oh.
the cable, the cat cable that was plugged into the back of the TV, it belted that connector into the back of the TV. I went to pull it out, and I just pulled out charred wires out of
Good
that
grief.
connector. I showed that to the insurance guy, took a piece of that wire to him.
I had a neighbor that got hit well, a similar problem. He only it was a roof strike. It hit his roof, but it blew a hole in the roof,
Yeah.
broke a joist,
Wow.
jumped down to a piece of Romex, and then went throughout the house and
Yeah.
blew everything.
Yeah. Well, see, I have underground cable here coming into this small addition, but a block away, that cable is above ground. So it got hit somewhere down there and then traveled underground to my house.
Huh. Well, mine's underground, but only out to less than a block away where it's
Yeah.
overhead.
Yeah, that's about like mine was, but
So if it hit that power line, it would
Yeah.
get me.
if you get that big of a strike, there's nothing you can do to keep it from getting things.
Yeah, what surprised me about that, my neighbor getting hit, his roof getting hit. I mean, there wasn't anything on the roof to attract lightning. It
Yeah.
literally just hit the roof.
Guess it was probably a wet roof.
Yeah, it probably was. And blew a hole in the roof and then jumped down to a piece of Romex, which was about probably 4 or 5 feet away. I mean, it was laying, it was from where it blew a hole in the roof. And then it fried everything.
Yeah.
And his insurance company gave him hell.
Hmm.
They made him either take every piece of equipment into a service center and get a letter saying it was actually lightning damage,
Wow.
or to have somebody come out.
What insurance company was that?
I don't know. But
I don't want that one.
for sure.
Mine's Farm Bureau, and they didn't even come out and look at my house. I gave them a list of what was burn up and they paid me.
Yeah, I don't know who he had insurance with, but they sure gave him
Yeah.
the runaround.
They didn't even come to my house. I could have put stuff on there that didn't happen, but I didn't. And the dishwasher, I didn't know it had a problem. So I came back about 2 or 3 weeks later and told them that it was the timer was not working right. And dishwasher wasn't very old. It's probably a year old. But it wasn't shutting off sometimes. It just keep washing. I went and told him that, and they paid me for a new dishwasher.
Well, at least you got a lot of new stuff.
Yeah,
That's-
got new computers. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Got all new Intel motherboards and Intel processors. New hard drives. Put solid state hard drives in this time.
Yeah, those things they're really neat. I went through and changed ours out here, I don't know, a year or so ago. The changing the ones out in the laptops is kind of a pain, but
Yeah,
they work great.
yeah. You know that little netbook that I gave to John, I put a solid state hard drive in it.
Oh, really?
And whenever I bought that little thing, it wasn't fast enough. So I put a solid state hard drive in it. That really helped it load up quicker. But solid state hard drives were pretty expensive then. And I put I think it was a 100 megabyte hard drive. And that thing was a couple of $100 back then. Now you can get a terabyte hard drive for not much more than that.
No, you can. You definitely can.
So
My newest
Yes,
computer,
I guess Seagate was working on that in Colorado. Is that where they were doing the solid state hard drive development?
honestly don't know. When I left, I wasn't aware of any solid state work going on. But there may have been a project that I was unaware of up there.
I can't remember. A lot of guys that I worked with went to that plant in Colorado, Longmont.
Right.
And they tried to get me to go up there, but I knew the cost of living in Longmont is about a whole lot more than it is in Oklahoma.
It definitely is. Housing is really expensive.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like being in California.
It is very much. I mean, it's probably as expensive.
Mhm.
A lot of the guys I knew did go. They weren't old enough to retire, retire, or whatever you want to call it. A lot of them went to Longmont. Some of them are still up there.
Did you know Gary Pinkerton?
Yes.
Me and him worked together. He and I were really good friends. I liked old Gary.
I didn't know him real well, but I did know him. He wasn't, somebody I dealt with very much, but
Yeah.
I did know him.
You know, you mentioned, I think I asked you that if you knew Charles Bussard. Charles Bussard and I worked on the first 5 1/4 floppy disk drive that was designed by Seagate, or I guess it was MPI then. I guess it was Seagate. And we was in building 1. That's where we were at.
Right.
On that.
Yeah.
And Harold Pexton was our mechanical engineer, and he hogged out a solid piece of aluminum for the deck for that 5 1/4 hard drive. He hogged out it from a solid block of aluminum, and that was quite the project. We really enjoyed doing that from ground up.
And that was who again?
Charles Bussard.
Bussard. Okay.
And Harold Pexton was the mechanical engineer.
Okay. Yeah, I knew them both. I knew Bussard real well,
Yeah,
very well.
yeah, I knew Bussard. Him and I are the ones that built the circuit so we could steal HBO that was being transmitted from the First National Bank building. We built the circuit board.
I had one of those.
You did?
Yeah. I got a circuit board from Radio Supply
Mhm.
in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, that probably
There was a
wasn't ours, but
There was a guy behind the counter that had a bunch of the circuit boards made and
mhm.
sold you kind of a kit of parts
Yeah,
to put the thing together. And then you got a snow coaster dish and
yeah.
made a feed horn and a,
Feed horn out of a coffee can.
yep. Sounds familiar.
Yeah. I don't remember what year that was, but it's been a couple of years ago.
Oh man, that's been a long time ago. Long time ago. Where did you live then? Did you live in
I lived out here. I built a house out here, and about that time, well, a few years before that, maybe a couple of years before that, and I had a sled, that round sled and the coffee can on the roof of the house. I know my neighbors thought I was crazy. I was up on the roof trying to point that dish at downtown Oklahoma City. I had a little TV up there with me, and I tuned that antenna until the picture popped in there.
so you got it clear over there, right?
Yeah, it's a little
you-
bit snowy. That's before digital TV, so
Yep.
had a few flakes of snow in it, but not bad. Got free HBO.
Yeah, I had one of those that I used for a good while there. Finally, when a satellite TV came out, I got a regular
Yeah,
small satellite dishes, put those up. But I used that for, I don't know, several years at least, the snow coaster dish.
yeah,
They came around and they were driving through the neighborhoods and writing down the addresses of people that had those snow coaster dishes on their roofs and sending them nasty letters. And a lot of guys took them down, and I thought, I'm not taking mine down. I didn't take it down, but
Well, I know one time we had a vehicle come by here. They stopped and took pictures of mine, but I never did get any. I don't know if it's just someone curious or what.
lost your audio there, Kim.
Does that make any difference?
Nope, still dead.
Still dead?
Yeah, now you're on.
I don't know what's going on. That's happened before. I jiggled that USB connection, but I'm not sure that's what it was.
Well, the picture never went away. So you'd think, if it was the USB,
Yeah,
of course, your camera, does your camera plug in separately from your,
yeah. But I've got a USB port on the front of this desktop computer, and I'll just plug it in there whenever I'm doing the Zoom meeting, and when I'm not on the meeting, I unplug it.
so the camera has a built-in microphone?
Built-in mic and everything, yeah.
Yeah, that's the way mine is.
It's just a cheapie. I don't remember
Yeah.
how much I gave for it.
Yeah, well, I think I paid, I don't know, $50 or something like that for mine.
Mine was cheaper than that.
Well, it's got a good picture, excellent picture.
That's what I've heard. I'm amazed.
Yeah, it's going to be really cold the next few days, so we probably won't be doing anything outside. But
Yeah,
so on your rotator, where you bring the cable in, do you have some kind of box with MOVs in it or something to?
no. Comes
Don't-
straight
you
in.
don't-
Comes straight in and plugs in the back of the controller.
So you're not worried about the lightning getting the in through the
If
rotator cable?
I get that close for lightning strike, it's gonna screw everything up anyway. Been up there for 20 years. Through several lightning strikes, but not on that particular tower. You know, the one that came in the phone line, and then my 60-foot vertical in the back got hit. Pretty much a direct strike, but antenna was unhooked and that monopole was grounded. So it didn't really hurt anything. Didn't get into my house, but that I had a 4-inch PVC end cap on top of that 4-inch diameter irrigation tubing to keep
Yeah.
water from getting down into the top of it. It blew that thing. There was little pieces of that all over my back 1 acre. I mean, you know, quarter-inch size pieces all over the place. It blew that thing to 1,000 pieces. So that I call a direct hit.
Yeah, there's tremendous energy in a lightning strike.
But it's the tallest thing on my property, so if the lightning gets close by, it's gonna go to that thing. And it's grounded right now. And I'm not using it, it's grounded.
It has an insulator at the bottom, and then
Yeah,
you run a ground shunt around it to,
yeah, I have a, it's insulated 4-inch diameter, 60-foot irrigation tubing. And at the bottom of it, it's got a ring made out of 3/8 copper tubing that all the radials are soldered to. And that is the ground for the shield on the coax. And then I have 3 ground rods driven in the ground right there. And whenever I'm not using that antenna, I have a ground wire that goes from that radial field and hooks to a 1/4-inch bolt that goes through that 4-inch diameter tubing. So I've got it pretty well grounded. And then I unhook the coax from it too.
yeah.
Out there, coax is unhooked out at the antenna.
You know, some article I was reading somewhere said the only safe thing to do was unplug your radio and disconnect the coax.
That's what I do.
Do you really?
Yep.
Every day, you mean?
No, if it's, you
Oh,
know,
if it's gonna storm. Oh, okay.
stormy weather, I do.
And
Okay.
the ground.
Yeah.
And the ground.
And the ground.
I'm in that way too.
Yeah.
Oh, really? The ground needs to be disconnected too, huh?
I didn't come up the ground as often as the power line. If it's a local hit, you get a ground strike outside your house. We used to, when I was in an oil patch, we ran a data cable across the yard from the rig to the company man's trailer. Every storm, both ends of the cable, the electronics on both ends would be blown out. Just head out there with a whole bucket full of them and go replace all of the signal conditioner parts.
When you get a direct strike, man, it
Yeah.
tears everything up. No matter
I
what
hadn't
you do.
thought, I hadn't thought about a ground strike though, you know, being conducted and then come in through your ground rod. That's that's interesting.
If it's close to your house, it's very creative about what it does.
Yeah, there's so much energy there. It's just,
I'm not, I don't think I'm gonna have a ground strike close to my house because it's gonna hit that 60-foot vertical first. And that's 200 feet from my house.
Well, I did a rough version of that.
All right.
I've got it set up out there. But right now I've just got it wired like a dipole on the driven element.
Yes.
And I tried to put a hairpin on it. And it just
Yeah.
made it much lower impedance.
What's the band on it? Is it 2 meters or 70
That's
centimeters?
that's a 70 centimeter.
All right.
So
Well,
listening to FT8 on that, but it's very quiet.
there's nobody on. Let me get
Nobody
mine.
on.
Let me get mine, and you can eyeball the.
How far south of 40 are you?
Well, as the crow flies, probably half a mile.
Oh, okay, so you're pretty close. I might need to,
Okay, there's the hairpin.
yeah. And I put one on it, but it dropped the impedance from, on a short cable. I had a little piece of copper that I was using. It dropped the impedance down to 25 and 23 or so, 25 ohms and about 23 ohm impedance net. And I took the hairpin off and it went up into the high 30s, and on a 50-foot cable at the cable, it's showing about 50 ohms. A little bit of reactance, but mostly resistive.
Well, when you get ready to try it, we'll point them at each other, and sounds like if you got 50 ohms, you can just do it like that.
It's less than 1.5 to 1 SWR on the meter on the radio.
Yeah, that's good enough.
But
So how are you measuring the impedance?
I got a
VNA.
meter somewhere here. Yeah, one of these.
Oh yeah.
So I don't really like it very much, but it does read the impedance, reactance, the resistance, and frequencies fairly easy, but it's not very good at displaying things.
Well,
it doesn't give me a good.
I use a VNA, Ken, and it's hooked to a laptop computer. So I have a big screen. The screen on this thing is too small to see. And
Well, I did that too.
yeah, and that's the best way to do it. I thought you had one of these. That's why I was
Yeah, but
wondering.
that little MFJ is a VHF UHF, and it does. It is somewhat easy to use, but it doesn't display as effectively. You know, you're not going to. Actually, it will do a Smith chart. It does some, but anyway,
Well, I have a MFJ analyzer, but it don't go up to 432. It only goes up to 2 meters.
right. Well, that's
But
potentially usable, I think, as it is. I got it sitting out there on the corner of the house right now,
yeah,
pointed in your more or less in your general direction, but I think
Okay.
maybe a little bit south of you, actually.
yeah. Well, you can go to qrz.com and it'll probably tell you the azimuth that I'm at from your house.
But we'll figure that out.
I bought a nano VNA, Ken.
You bought one?
Yeah,
Good. I'm glad you did. I was gonna ask you what you were gonna use, but there's a program, I can't remember the name of it. It's a freebie software that goes with it because it's just too hard for me to use unless I have a software program. I don't know the name of it, but I can get it for you if you want me to.
well, I've got one that I downloaded,
What's it called?
VNA Saver.
That's it. That's what I'm using.
Yep.
And I've played around with it a little bit, but it's just something else to learn.
That's right. Yeah.
But I did, I have a 2.4 gigahertz dish for internet, and setting up here on the shelf that I wasn't doing anything with. So I hooked it up to the little VNA, and I did learn how to sweep the thing, and it indicated that it was resonant at it dipped at 2.4, and so I did learn a little bit about it anyway, how to use it.
Okay, that's the chart behind me of my 630 meter antenna. You see the frequency there? That's 472 kilohertz, and the SWR is almost 1.0. I don't know if I can get out of the way or not there.
Well, you can see the two, but you can't see the scale below there.
Yeah.
But
That's 472 kilohertz, or 474 kilohertz. And that bottom line is SWR 1.0. So you can see the SWR on that antenna is pretty good.
very good, I'd say. Perfect.
Return loss. Oh, you can see the SWR right by my glasses. It's 1.015 to 1.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Over there in the,
Right
right.
there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I see it now.
So you don't have to have your antenna that good, but if you put in a little extra work, you can get it pretty good.
Now, which antenna is that exactly?
That's the 630 meter vertical.
Oh, okay.
That irrigation tubing
Okay.
that I originally made for 80 meters, but I modified it to work on 630 meters.
With a big loading coil?
Big loading coil and 4 45-foot top loading wires.
For capacitance?
Capacity hat, yeah.
Does that thing hinge and can you tilt it over, or is it?
Yeah, it did, but it don't now. After I tilted it up, I done away with the tilt part of it and just set it on top of the big insulator.
I see.
So if I want to take it back down, I gotta put my hands back up. I've got a 6x6 treated post in the ground beside it that I used it. The hinge at the bottom is hooked to. You can see that on my website if you look at that. The antennas, 630 meter antenna, it shows a picture of it with the loading coil, all that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I've looked at your website, particularly the antenna with the mast with the hinge and the gin pole.
Yeah.
I was looking really closely at that one to see how you had done all the
Well,
details on that.
I sent you some pictures of that hinge. Do you remember that?
You emailed me some, or?
Yeah.
Well, I remember looking at the pictures, but I thought I saw them on your website. Maybe it was the email instead.
It probably was, because you can see it on the website. I think, no, that might be on QRZ.com where you can kind of see it, but not a whole lot of detail in it.
Well, there's quite a bit of detail, so it must have been.
Must have been the ones I sent you.
It must have been, because it showed a lot of detail of the V-shaped
Yeah.
notch that it kind of sets up against. And yeah.
So that picture of the background there was taken in my backyard with my Astro camera. That's called Horsehead Nebula there.
The really bright one?
The nebula just above my shoulder.
Oh, okay. Yeah, down lower.
See the Horsehead?
Yeah, I do. Now I do.
And there's
Right.
another nebula right there called Flame Nebula.
Is that a long time exposure or?
Yeah, the shutter in the camera's open for 5 minutes. And I took about 50 shots and stacked them all together.
Wow.
That's how you do that. That's how you get it's the only way you can get enough light to see anything.
Yeah,
So
that's a good,
so,
that's a
so
good shot. Looks like something off the Hubble.
if your shutter's open for 5 minutes, you have to be pretty stable. Your camera can't be vibrating around. Anyway, back to ham radio.
I guess since I'm gonna have to assemble that beam outside, I'm probably what I'll do. Next is go ahead and start bolting the other sections of the tower together
Yeah,
and have that all ready to go. Have
Yeah.
the rotator and the coax and cables and everything hooked up so I can, when I do get the beam assembled, I can just stick it on there and not have to worry about
so
it.
you're gonna have
Well,
to put that tower all together and then put your stinger out the top. But then you're gonna have to lift that or crank that tower up off the ground because it's gonna be pretty far up to stab that antenna into the rotor.
Yeah, 11 feet.
That's a long ways.
It is.
Yeah,
That's more than a step ladder.
yeah,
I've got a long step ladder, but I'm not sure it'll get me up high enough to do that. Hadn't thought about that until you mentioned it. I had thought about putting it on there, but I hadn't really thought about how I'm going to get up to the 11-foot level. I've got 2 sections of scaffolding that'll do it.
yeah.
It's kind of a pain to put it all together, but I've got it. The regular industrial type scaffolding, that'll get me up there.
Yeah, that'll be something reasonably stable to stand on while you're working.
Yeah, it's real stable. It's the good scaffolding. It's old, but it's good. I've used it quite a few times. Used it while I was building this house and used it on my old house and that. So I think I can manage that. I'll have to kind of get around behind that thing. So I'll have to have the scaffolding kind of under the tower with just a little bit of it sticking out and the stinger exposed so I can stab that beam onto the mast.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'll work. And I won't fall off a ladder and break my neck.
yeah, that wouldn't be a good idea.
Yeah, I try to avoid falling.
Could I ask a question?
Shoot,
Yeah, what would you recommend for an antenna for me to do that, like the 10 and the 6 meter range, like you were talking about? Something simple I could put up on the side of my house.
well, They're two different bands and they're pretty far apart. I don't know, but what I would just build a 10-meter dipole, because 6 meters, in order to contact anybody very far off, the antenna needs to be up pretty high. So I think I'd work on 10 meters first. Just build a 10-meter dipole. You know how to do that?
Well, I've already got some copper wire. I guess I need a balun to put in between the two wires.
Yeah, they have a half-wave dipole. The formula is 468 divided by frequency in megahertz. So 468 divided by 28 megahertz will give you the length of it. And then you make your piece of wire that long and cut it in half and put an insulator in the middle. Run 50 ohm coax, center conductor to one side and the shield to the other side. Put it up in the air as high as you can get it.
Well, I've already got a pole up that's 20 feet that I have my 2-meter antenna on.
Yeah.
Could I put that, like the
Sure.
balun I could put up there and then hang the wires off that?
Yeah, you could do that and make an inverted V even.
Yeah, I could bring it down to the roof line on my house
Yeah,
and
10
fast.
meter antenna is pretty small, so wouldn't be hard to do. And if you can run the wires north-south, it'll put you broadside to Europe.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, I got some just plain old copper wires.
That's all you need.
Yeah, and so I just need to get a balun, and I was going to add another 10 feet to my pole out there to go up 30 feet. So
That'd be better. If you can get a 10-meter antenna up 30 feet, you won't have any trouble at all working Europe. I'm using a dipole here that I work on 17 meters, and I've been working in Indonesia and China and South Korea. I worked 3 of those stations night before last. I worked Indonesia, Taiwan, and South Korea night before last on 17 meters with the dipole running 80 watts.
Wow. Amazing. FT8.
58.
so the length of the wire, I've got a chart that shows the quarter wave, half wave, and full wave length. I was thinking of just going with quarter wave length on that, or
No, it's a half-wave dipole, and I gave you the formula, 468 divided by 28 megahertz. That gives you the length of the wire, half-wave piece of wire, and then cut that in half and put the center insulator in the middle of it.
Ken, do you even need a balun on that thing?
Nope, you don't have to have a balun.
I know way back when,
Especially if it's an inverted V, because if you droop the ends down, you get closer to 50 ohms. And if you're close to 50 ohms, you're not going to have very high SWR, which means there won't be much RF try to come back down the coax. So you don't need a balun. Center insulator on each end, coax running into your shack.
yeah, I've got some good coax I ordered. Yeah, that was 468 divided by the megahertz, right?
Yep, which is 28 megahertz. You want to cut it for the low end of the band.
Okay, so each one of them is that length.
No,
no,
you cut it in half. It's a half wave. That formula is for a half wavelength. And your dipole has a quarter wave each side of the coax.
Okay, I got it now. Thanks.
What did it come out? Did you calculate it? It's not very big, not very much.
Not yet. I'm just trying to write all this down so I can do it later.
Also, you just divide 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
which is
that
half
gives
of
you a quarter wave.
468. If you want 1/4 wavelength, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1/4 wavelength, divide 2, 3, 4 by your frequency.
Yeah.
And that's, a dipole is 2 quarter wave elements.
So it come out
But a
16
vertical
point-
antenna is usually 1 quarter wave element. So if you're figuring out a vertical antenna, if you divide by 2, 3, 4, you'll get pretty much the right height.
So it came out 16 feet and 3/4. 16.71 feet. So I would go 17 feet. It'll come out a little low in frequency. Then you can shorten it a little bit until you get resonant.
Well, you need a little bit to wrap around the insulators anyway,
That's right.
probably.
That's exactly right. So probably cut it 17.5 or 18 feet. Cut that in half and put an insulator in the middle. That way you got enough room to wrap around those insulators. So the end result would be from the center hole in the insulators to the center hole in the other insulator. On each one of them would be a quarter wave, which would be half of that 16.75.
Okay, I think I got that. And was that
But-
for you said that was for the 10 meter?
10-meter band, yeah. Which is the band that you can get on and operate on and listen on.
Yeah, I look forward to that. So I'll start working on that antenna. Well, I wish we had a few more good days like today, this
Oh,
June.
today was great.
I
Yeah.
know I'm asking for too much, but man, I got so much
Mhm.
done outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Where
with
do-
you. I've got a lot to do outside and it's cold weather.
Where do you live at, John?
I live in El Reno.
One thing you need to do,
There, Ken's showing you a 10-meter dipole, it looks like. Is that what that is, Ken? Oh, he's got his sound muted.
one thing you need to do on that coax where you attach it up there is really seal the end of it good so water can't get back down between the jacket and the
Yeah, on the
shield.
coax.
Yeah. What do you suggest on that, Ken, to seal it? Do you use good electrical tape like Scotch or something? And
Yeah, that's good. That'll work. I've got some of that. No, it's kind of like caulking. It's black and it's kind of real rubbery that I use, put on it, and then put black electrical tape around it. Ken's showing you how to do it there.
Yeah, I'm noticing. I really appreciate that.
Ken, your sound is muted.
Sorry, protecting you from my noises.
I thought you were
That-
talking.
Yeah, that Stretch and Seal is the brand of that. It's available at a Home Depot for about, well, it was $6.78 2 months ago. It might be 12 now.
that probably is.
The prices were going up so fast, it made
Oh,
my
I
head
know it.
spin.
Yeah,
Well, I've
I
got,
actually worked there for 6 months and I enjoyed it. It was fun visiting with people and figuring out solutions. But it got to be too much time on my feet on the concrete. But you
Well, I've
just
got-
need to solder one end of the wire in an SO239. And you can put, if you screw this to something, a piece of plastic or PVC, anything, or nothing, then it's probably better to put a screw in that corner and an eyelet on the end of your wire. But I just stuck that in and soldered it and it worked fine. And the wire is just, I get 5.5 feet arm to arm, so I can take and measure out my wire pretty fast. So I've got that much on the end of 5.5 feet to give you that, if you double it, if I go all the way across, it's just about 3 of my arm lengths to get the whole antenna. Then when you start throwing wire fast, if you figure that out, save yourself a lot of time in measuring. It's almost exactly three stretches on me is almost exactly a 10 meter, 16.5 foot, 16.7 or 16 feet, 6-7 inches. You're going to add a couple inches anyway. So
what do you use for strain relief on that?
on this one, I'm not, but normally, I'll normally put the BSO 239 in a piece of material. I use the 88-cent Walmart cutting boards a lot. That material is just cheap and it's insulated. And then I run the wire through, I'll drill a couple of holes and I'll cut the wire off here, just loop them through the little holes, and it forms a nice strain relief. I think where I've got one of those set up.
Man, that's a great tip. Thank you.
It's real easy. It's real cheap. I mean, you can order the 239s for about $2.50 from cheapham.com.
Or you can get them at Amazon.
Yeah, and on Amazon all around.
And the 239s,
You want a
Need
few
to
of
be-
those in your box.
if you do go that route with the SO 239s, they need to be really sealed up good too, I understand, to keep moisture out of them.
Well, I know y'all were talking about lightning. Should I put I've got some really thick copper grounding wire just that I have. Should I go ahead and put a ground on that pole too?
Is it going to be a metal pole?
Yeah, it's a metal pole. It's some fencing posts that I got at Lowe's.
Yeah, top rail stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It looks like it's about 2 or 2.5 inches in diameter
Ah.
and slips together. I've got 2 10-foot sections, and I was going to get another 10-foot section and put on that.
Not a bad idea to ground it.
Yeah, it's on the same pad as my air conditioner, and I'm afraid if it got hit, it'd go right into the air conditioning
Yeah.
compressor unit. It probably would anyhow, but with a grounding strap, I'm hoping it would help.
Can't hurt.
No, it can't hurt. But as for a way to seal that, if you've got it exposed, if it's not in a box or a piece of PVC, hot glue. If you just take hot glue around the very top there and build it up until it goes all over the end of the wire, seals the wire, and then come back with a hot air gun. And if you have it, but you don't need it, but it'll be a little bit funky looking if you just spiral up the hot glue on it, come back with a hot air gun, and it'll just sort of smooth it out, make it look pretty. But that hot glue will seal the backside of that contact. And then
That'll
when
give you
put
some
your
strain
coax
relief
on
too,
there,
won't it?
I think I've got a couple of project boxes around here that are pretty small.
when you get your coax on it,
Well, I had a center insulator I was going to show you, but I couldn't find it.
stretch and seal tape, it's a self-vulcanizing tape. It sticks to itself. And I like this because it doesn't leave residue when you take it off later. If you use any other kind of self-adhesive, sticky tape, it'll leave a bunch of garbage on the connector. And it's a real mess to clean up later. But you just stretch this stuff around it, and it's very flexible. You just stretch it out and pull it around, wind up so that the laps favor, the rain running off it. Start at the bottom and work your way up. And you probably won't have anything get in there.
Is that Lowe's or Home Depot, did you say?
Home Depot has that. Lowe's probably does too.
And
It's in the
stretch and
plumbing
seal.
department. And it's usually with the duct tape and other stuff like that.
Okay.
One thing you can do, John, is go on YouTube and Google dipole antenna, and you'll probably come across some way to build a center insulator by using PVC. And your end insulators can be PVC too.
Yeah, it's a good
First one,
idea.
I had a
some laying
piece
around
of
in front.
RG58, and I just had cut the end and soldered the wires on the ends of it and just taped it all up in a ball and stretched it through the limbs of the tree out here. And
Yeah.
that's where I made my first contacts with.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a 20 meter, so it was 16.5-foot elements instead of 16.7 total, because it was a 20 meter band rather than 10, so it was twice as big, but there
Yeah.
was $6 in that thing. I've had that wire laying around, and I had a lot of junk wire. But I just
Yeah,
bought
you
some.
You can just take a piece of PVC about 3 inches long, drill 2 holes in the ends, and run your wire through the holes, and then just solder a piece of coax to it without even the connector. So they're shielded to one of them and center conductor to the other one, and then seal that coax like Bill said, so water can't get in it. You can RTV it or something and tape it, and as long as you can keep the water from getting in it, you don't really have to have a high dollar centerpiece.
Yeah, that's good information. Thanks a lot.
You don't have a 10-meter receiver, do you?
No, I don't, but like I said, I'm looking at buying one.
Yeah.
A guy here in town had a Yaesu, I think it's a 897 older unit, but I tried it for a while. I couldn't get it to work. So I think it's best just to buy a new one.
Yeah, at least then you'll know what you got.
He wanted too much for it too. He wanted $850 and it was questionable whether or not it even worked.
Yeah. Bill's got a new transceiver also.
Yep. The money you're talking there, the 800 and something, you can buy a brand new ICOM. What is it, 773 or 733, Kim?
I think it's a 7300.
7300, right. You can buy a brand new ICOM 7300, which is supposed to be a really good radio for $9.99.
For a beginner, good radio for a beginner.
It's a little bit complicated, a little bit, but you can use it. You can use it, just almost turn it on and go.
Yeah, Ken's got you have a 7300 and a 9700, don't you?
Yeah, 9700 is a little more involved.
Yeah. It's not for me because mine's set up for moon bounce, and I've got it working and I don't change anything on it.
Well, that's
Stays there. It's dedicated to that one 70 centimeter band.
well, I haven't figured out what I'm going to be able to do with that thing yet, but it is more complicated than the 7300. It's really pretty straightforward. It's but it does have a lot of capabilities above and beyond your initial setup. When you first get it, you can get on air really quick with it, but you might be actually forced to check in your man card and read the book a little bit.
Or watch a YouTube.
That's my 9700 book. But I haven't had a look at that thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys on YouTube that'll show you everything you need to know about it, just about.
That's true. And I've done that. I do that.
I did get the APRS working on that FTM 400 that I bought. That's pretty cool. Thing is, you can't really tell. It's hard to tell who's around you. And that radio also has a fusion capability. Are there any fusion repeaters around?
What kind of repeater?
The fusion, that's I guess it's a Yaesu digital link.
Yeah.
Not that I know of.
I've never used that, but I hear it's the easiest of all of the digital modes. Fusion.
Is it digital
DMR.
voice?
DMR is complicated.
Is it digital voice? Is that what it is, Ken?
Fusion, yeah, it's a digital voice mode, it's like the DMR. Well,
Yeah.
E-Star and Fusion were the two big box digital voice modes, right? The most common, and till DMR came along with the cheap radios.
Well, I'll be on here next week to show you guys my progress on that antenna.
Okay.
And
Maybe we gave you a few ideas. You can.
now the edge of my house has a gutter on it. Should I put like an insulator between the wire and the where I connect it to the edge of the roof?
I always do, and you can make that out of PVC.
That's what I was thinking after your suggestion. You just take a short PVC pipe and drill a hole in both ends, right?
Yeah, do that. You can do that on each end and in the middle both. You can have 3 of those, and coax cable, copper wire, and you have an antenna.
I think that the thing to consider, I know you were talking about three segments of fence post. Your ideal height is a half meter. I mean, a half a wavelength. So basically, if your antenna is 17 feet long, 16, 17 feet, that's a half wavelength antenna. And when you're talking about a dipole, the perfect height for that is 16 feet 7 inches. It's basically the length of the wire high. So you don't need to go put it 30 feet in the air to get good response, for it to work right. So whenever people put up a dipole, it's like 20 meters wants to be 10 meters in the air, 30 some odd feet. But I bet half the 20-meter dipoles out there are at 20 feet. They still work okay, but you don't have to have it real high to be totally functional. 16 feet is plenty for a 10-meter.
Well, that's good advice. I'll just try to hook it up on that 20-meter pole to start with, or 20-foot pole to start with.
That'd be high enough. That'd be plenty.
But if you're making an inverted V, your ends are not gonna be the same height as the center.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So I may need to do that. My house is about 12 or 14 feet. The edge of the roof is from the ground.
Let's just say a 10-meter dipole will work without adding the other 10 foot. But the other 10-foot section would help on all of your other antennas that's on top of your 20 foot now. If you get it up 10 foot higher, it'll work better. Is that where your 2-meter antenna's at?
Yes. It's up there. And I'm having a little trouble. Of course, I'm just on a HT right now, my old Kenwood handheld. So hopefully if I get that radio, I'll have some more juice to reach out there a bit and better reception. What's the ARES net?
Ken or Mike probably knows that. He's up to speed on those.
Is that the digital link?
Say which one?
I just saw a note here from
The AresNet?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually 2. There's one Monday night that's DMR, And then Tuesday nights, it's on on the Norman repeater on W5NOR. And it's essentially Aries is emergency response. Am I muted? No. Anyway, that and it. Okay, I got it. Where am I? Oh, there you are. Anyway,
Yeah,
Even-
I can't quite get that Norman repeater from where I live.
Well, get that
That's-
antenna up another 10 foot, you might do it.
that's my problem here. From Northwest Oklahoma City, it's a bit of a shot down there for that. But
I can hear them just fine. They can't hear me.
I can hit it from Shawnee. Full quieting.
It's kind of strange. I can get Guthrie just clear as a bell here in El Reno, but not Norman.
But I'm using an 11 element Yagi pointed at it.
That helps.
I was up in my attic. Somebody left a old Yagi antenna up there for TV channels. I wonder if I could trim that down to make it the right length and use it.
you could.
You can use the pieces out of there to
Yep.
make an antenna.
All that aluminum is useful.
Aluminum's high dollar stuff nowadays.
When I was much younger, I put one up in the attic in my other house, and I still have the house. My mother-in-law is living in it, but I don't feel like I want to crawl in. I had to crawl on my belly on the rafters or the ceiling joists, and I don't think I want to go through the ceiling to go back and get it out.
You might have been a little younger when you put it up
I
there.
was a lot younger. 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't even kneel down to the ground now without a lot of commotion.
I don't have any trouble getting down. It's getting up that I have the problem.
Me too, Kim.
Gravity helps you down. That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm
If I get-
working on an old pickup truck, trying to get it going right now, and I have to crawl under there a couple of times a day. Man, that was tough getting back up.
I've got an old Mercury Grand Marquis that's got low miles on it. And I let it sit a little while, and I need to get underneath it and change out the fuel filter, and having a minor fuel issue with it, trying to get it going again. So all these real good days, I should have had it jacked up, crawl under there and do it, but I haven't done it.
Well, I bought a set of bucket seats out of a Chrysler minivan, and I'm trying to put those in the truck right now. The ones that are in it are sagging so bad, I look like Kilroy looking over the dashboard.
How many people know who Kilroy is?
Not many.
Well, I think everybody present probably does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
the kids sure don't.
Mine's a 93 Dodge Dakota, and things sat in my driveway for 10 years and kind of got to working on it recently, and man, it's running great.
I had a Dodge Dakota. We started out kind of rough. I bought it new, and I had it towed 3 times in the first 90 days. They finally changed out the transmission. It was all related to the starter bell housing. It was a loose screw, the loose bolt jumped bouncing around, and it would jam the starter bendix, and it would just sit there and spin.
Oh my.
Well, they finally figured it out, and that problem went away, and then it just started making some god awful noise. I couldn't hear, but my wife could. My hearing is already high frequency. I've never had high frequency hearing, I don't think, since I was a teenager, but they ended up having to change the transmission. And then after that, it was a great little truck. It really was. But boy, it was a rough start.
Well, this one's kind of got some sentimental value. It was my dad's truck.
Ah.
So I kind of want to keep it going. And
Yeah.
I don't want to drive it and not put so many miles on my minivan that I have. Try to save that.
Yep.
Tired of making car payments. I've about got this thing paid off. So I'm going to try to drive that truck for a while.
It's like me and the Mercury. It needs to get running. It had that Ford Mercury 4.6 liter V8 uses a plastic intake manifold. And the stock factory one cracked at the front. And then the aftermarket replacement one cracked at the back. Gotta love that. But they're not very expensive anymore, thankfully, but they're not
easy to change, are they?
they're not easy to change.
Wonder where John is tonight.
I guess he
I don't
gave
wanna
up
talk
on us.
Doesn't want to talk about COVID, probably.
Yeah, he
think
gave
we-
up on us.
I
Hope
think
he
we
didn't get
offended
it.
him last week or anything.
Well, I've been trying to stay in, and I'm starting to get used to it, but it's been kind of rough some days. You know, when I want to go out and eat or go do something.
Well,
I'm not having any trouble staying in. I got things to do.
I like going down to the firehouse, but right now, my daughter, I have a daughter that lives with me, and she's only got one vaccination so far.
Yeah,
Until she gets her second one and let it cook a little bit, I'm trying to lay pretty low too.
yeah.
Yeah, I've had both of mine plus a booster.
Yep.
I'm hoping that I don't even want to get it even after getting those. I don't want to
Yeah.
get it.
I've had
Well, you
both of
can-
mine and the booster and the flu shot. And I have a daughter-in-law that lives with me that's a diabetic, and I don't want to bring it home to her.
Nope.
Yeah.
So there's a group of us that go out to eat every Friday, and I quit doing that. I started back up there for a while, and now this variant has come along, so I quit going out to that.
Well, yeah.
My wife works at the Oklahoma State Medical Association, so I get daily reports on what's going on.
Yeah, I heard on TV today that all the beds in Oklahoma City are full, and 92% are with people that have not had their shots.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that's definitely varies by area, but we probably have a lot more people here that didn't get shots.
We made the national news, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
with that bit of data.
The only good thing you can say about it is this is not quite as lethal as the first two
Yeah.
waves,
Yeah,
It's a lot more contagious.
but much more contagious.
that's why you need to have them shots.
I worked at St. Anthony Hospital before I retired. And we're talking about this the other day. My friend and I were talking about it. Even 9 years ago, most of the time, there were only a few beds available anyway. They kept that place pretty much full. And it didn't take very much to fill it up. So that even back then, all the ERs had the backup plan to go on divert if they got the beds too full and it couldn't sustain a large influx of ambulance. You know, that somebody in an ambulance had the choice to go to a number of hospitals, then they would spread out the load. But I know that there's a lot of elective work that's being delayed to cover all that now. So
Probably have more beds now than they did back then too.
they do. But
Sure offended some of my friends. I told them that they should get the shot and some of them are just kind of being stubborn and stupid about it,
well,
saying that it's going to affect their DNA, and that's only
But unfortunately, there's so much noise going around, you can't tell what's true and what's not. You know?
Right.
Thanks to Facebook.
The Merck has a drug out that definitely has some side effect challenges. And there are a couple of countries that have stopped it. I think France is one of them, in fact, but it has such potential side effects that they deemed it not worth the risk. So I don't know. But I got my boosters and my shots and booster. I'm diabetic, so I figured I really needed it.
Yeah. Well, another thing, this new variant, they think may have some long-term side effects.
Well,
I got enough side effects myself already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm diabetic too. Are you you don't have to answer, but are you is it stage 1 or stage 2?
I'm a type 2.
I
Yeah.
just turned into a type 1 a few months back.
Wow.
And I started taking the injections. I wish I'd started sooner. Man, I feel so much better now.
Really?
I just take one in the morning and one in the evening.
Yeah.
I have managed not to be on meds most of the time. I took meds early on. And then I got very active back when I was at Saints about 10 years ago. I got involved in rowing downtown at the Boathouse District. And I got into really pretty good physical shape, and that helped a lot. And just recently, though, I've gone on a draconian no carb diet, and that's really pulling it down. So I'm kind of eager to get this over with about 10 weeks down the road and get a measurement on my A1C and see where I'm at.
You're looking pretty normal in your weight from what I can see.
I've got my weight is down to, actually I'm down to, I don't want to gain it. I don't want to lose anymore. I'm down to like 160, and I've carried about 190 for 20 years, 30 years. And I was heavier than that before that. And I got something, I don't know what changed, but my weight just sort of worked its way down to about 190, and I ran at that for a long time. And it has slowly declined. But what I'm doing now will take off the rest of the fat. I think I don't want to be that lean. I want to have a little padding and a little bit of reserve. I think that's healthy, actually.
Excuse me.
Well, my daughter-in-law has to take shots 5 or 6 times a day.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Well, they had me on some real expensive medications for the type 2 diabetes. And it was like $400 a month, and I'm on Medicare. So on top of that, and so I started taking these injections, and I'm only paying $30 for a month's supply.
That's much better.
And they've got this long-term insulin now.
Yeah, she's got short-term insulin and long-term.
Oh my, she must have pretty serious issues.
Yeah. That's why I don't want to give her the coronavirus.
No. But I found that injection to be pretty easy. I just throw that pin like a dart in my stomach.
Yeah, that's what she does.
You don't feel a thing if you can get it going fast enough.
They tried to put me on biologics for Crohn's when I was much younger. And I kind of resisted that. Didn't go there. But that's basically what they do with a pen type injection. But then I had a rheumatologist to try to do it to me for arthritis, and I rejected that idea too.
I pretty much reject doctors.
It's good to stay away from them when you can.
Yeah.
There are times when you got to go, though.
Well, they can get carried away with too many medicines, I think.
Yeah. I don't take any medication.
Some will slam dunk you with a heart. You know, the most radical thing right off. When I was first diagnosed diabetic, for a brief time, I had a doctor who immediately threw the metformin maximum at me.
Yeah.
And it knocked me out. I mean, it put me down. It was crazy, but not something to mess with.
Yeah, the less prescriptions you take, the better off you are.
Yeah, I switched doctors recently and she's got me off most everything. I'm only taking one or two things. I'm taking a blood pressure, which I don't think I need because I've lost about 30 pounds. I was way too heavy this time last year, about 240, and I'm down to about 210 now. So I hope to keep going. I feel a whole lot better. So where'd y'all retire from? What
I
kind of-
retired from Seagate Technology, and Bill retired from Seagate Technology.
Oh, wow.
Ken retired from 2 or 3 places, didn't you, Ken?
I've worked for Philips Medical Systems for a dealer and then for the company for 36 years doing X-ray repair. And 12 years or so, I guess ago, they did a riff. It wasn't age related. It was just the oldest guy on every team that they let go. And they lost a lot of talent when they did it. Kind of reminds me of GM when they golden parachuted all their mechanical engineers on transmissions and things like that, and then they didn't know how to build one. But then I went to work for St. Anthony's for 7 years, and that was a good job. I enjoyed that. That was it.
So how about you, John?
Well, I've been, and please don't hold it against me, I've been working in TV news for 40 years.
Well, it's a good thing to be out of.
I still do some of it. I do audio work for them and some different things which is kind of neat. I get to work with some really cool radio equipment.
Well,
So-
you ought to be a natural for audio processing when you get into the back into HF or down into the HF stuff, because there's a lot that can be done with that.
Oh, you mean just getting rid of noise, electronic?
Yeah, noise reduction and such.
And I've got one little box. It's called a cedar box, and I have no idea what's in it. It's got 2 gigaflops processor in it, but you can take some audio and feed in there with traffic noise and wind noise, especially air conditioning noise, and it just gets rid of it. It's some kind of magic formula that they have inside of it. But yeah, there's some neat stuff coming out electronically.
I'm getting ready to do a passive 4-channel mixer.
Oh, wow.
The Bob Heil 4-channel mixer. I've got 4 radios, 4 radio audio outputs that I'm going to try to mix into a pair of speakers. But anyway, another one of my little projects that I work on every once in a while. You Seagate guys, I worked for Magnetic Peripherals briefly back in 77, maybe.
So did we.
The Hawk and the Phoenix drives.
Yeah. I
Yep.
remember those.
Yep.
10
Know those
megabytes,
names, but we can.
10 megabytes single platter, 1 removable platter, 2 platter,
Yeah.
and the 80 meg. And then when I went to work for Philips, we used those drives in our CTs.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny, but
Yeah.
over on 39th Street.
I remember my
Yep.
first hard drive was 5 megabytes and it
Yeah.
cost like $600.
How would you fill that up? How could
I
you
remember
possibly
those
fill
days.
that up?
At the time I thought I'll never use that.
Yep, me too.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, there wasn't anything that was so intensive about filling disk drives up. There was no photographs, there was no movies, there was,
And DOS
Yeah.
didn't take much room.
right. Yeah, just text doesn't take much room.
Funny.
Well, I remember I worked on, I think it was Honeywell then, in building 5. We had some hard disk drives that was, I'm not sure, they might have been control data ones. They was about the size of a portable dishwasher, and there was 25 megabytes.
Well, they developed the DOS operating system at Honeywell here in Oklahoma City, didn't they?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No,
We worked-
DOS came from
Yeah. We worked at
Bill
Honeywell.
Gates.
Bill and I both worked at Honeywell.
I
Yeah.
don't know where I got that notion, but it seemed to
I
somebody.
don't, who developed DOS, Bill? I don't.
Gates. What am I
Gates.
trying to think? The company.
Gates.
Oh, yeah.
Gates stole it from IBM.
Right.
Well,
Well,
not really.
DS-DOS.
He sold it to IBM.
He was involved in it, and he split away from the project. But he was involved with originally with, I think it was with IBM.
Yeah, he sold it to IBM. IBM came to him wanting an operating system because they didn't want to. They were going into the PC business. They didn't want to go out and develop their own operating system.
Yeah.
And they heard that they had one, and they really didn't. But Gates and his partner bought one from another guy that had a rudimentary operating system and improved it quite a bit and sold it, and then they didn't really sell it to IBM. They gave them rights to use it, but he kept the rights to it, which was the smartest thing he ever did, probably.
Yeah.
Because they've made a fortune off of DOS and the,
Mhm.
and the derivatives of it. IBM's initial operating system, their DOS came from Microsoft. Finally thought of it. But Gates and Allen.
Yeah, I've been trying to think of his name, his partner.
Paul Allen.
Yeah, Paul Allen, that's it.
Yeah. They both got filthy rich.
Yeah. Yeah, people talk about the price of our Windows operating systems back in those times that Bill was talking about. Charles Bessard and our group, we bought one of the IBM desktop computers, and it had 2 8-inch floppy disk drives in a separate box. And that thing was about $10,000. And we bought it. We was going to backwards engineer that sucker and figure out what they were doing. And we could do part of it, but they had a lot of chips in there that were, IBM made with no numbers on them. So we didn't know what was in that chip. So we couldn't backwards engineer all of it. But it was, the fact that that thing cost that much money and the software, just an inventory program like some business might use, was thousands of dollars. Now you can get an inventory program for free to run on Windows. So IBM was really ripping people off at that time.
I think my first computer was a Commodore 64.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, I do too.
I had a Clive Sinclair. Yeah.
My first computer was homemade, and it used a basic interpreter called Tiny Basic in a 16-bit EEPROM.
And now we're almost right back to that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was what my computer was in right there.
Yeah, that's a lot of power back then.
Yeah. and I wire wrapped, I had a motherboard and some daughter boards that plugged into it, and I wire wrapped all of it. That was whenever I copied a Radio Shack TRS-80, and I wire wrapped it, and it had 16 meg of memory, and I wire wrapped all that memory. Those memory chips were 1602, one bit 8K, so I had to string all of them together to get 16 megs of RAM.
Mhm.
And I copied the circuit Radio Shacks that they used. TRS-80 used a tape recorder to load the program into it. Well, that was just too slow, so I made a floppy disk drive controller using Western Digital chips, and that way I could hook up a floppy disk drive to that homebrew Radio Shack computer. And all the parts were pretty easy to get, except the character generator. And I went to the Radio Shack store and bought that character generator and a few more CMOS chips. And the rest of the parts I scrounged up to make that Radio Shack. And I did that so I could use their programs. And it was a pretty neat system.
Well, there's a company that sure went downhill and finally went away. Radio Shack.
Yeah.
They're online still, but that's it. Actually, there's a store. Well, we know.
They've got a few of them.
Yeah, the guy up in Kansas that still got a fairly decent one.
He comes to all the shows, the ham shows.
In the Hobby Town, 100 square foot Radio Shack section. Pegboard on one wall.
It's not very big.
Yeah. Ought to have a few jacks and a couple of pots and just a handful of little things, not much, but picked up a project box there. That's the one in Norman.
You know, if they'd have just stayed with their original concept, they would still be in business, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, they tried to cash in, and they did for a while on cell phones, but
Yeah.
they just put all their effort into consumer electronics and not into the hobbyist.
They
I mean,
used to, well, they used to make a pretty nice little stereo and some respectable little speakers, and you know, there were some products they made that weren't shabby. It just,
Yeah,
I don't know.
you
You can mismanage almost any great idea out of business.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and another dark secret I have is that I bought a Radio Shack store in 2006, and boy, I lost most of my retirement on that. I thought I'd park my retirement money in that, and you know, I thought, how could Radio Shack go out of business? And man, they sure did. And I've never seen a worsely run company as it was back then. You know, the quality of the stuff was just junk. I always thought they should be like a high-end radio supply store, you know, for your HDMI cables and, you know, all your stuff like that for people that actually work on stuff. But, you know, they started selling toys and.
Yeah, that was a nightmare. I did the holiday season at the one at Shepherd Mall one time.
Well, they sure took me to the cleaners. And one of the things, I think it was back in 2008, they had some genius CEO, and they had a lot of cash on hand, and he stuck all the cash into this art that turned out to be not worth very much, but he paid a lot for it, and thought he would make a lot of money for Radio Shack by buying this art. Pretty much started their demise at that point.
He put the money into what?
Art.
Bad art.
Yeah.
Bad art.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was just one bad decision after the other. And I still have a whole drawer full of, you know, when I closed the store down, I put all the diodes, I kept all that, and relays and stuff like that that I tried to hang on to.
I've got some art right outside of my house. All these antennas are art to me.
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
My neighbors might not think so, but
They look like art to me, Ken.
yeah.
Well, I don't know if there's any rules where I live. I'm inside El Reno, but hopefully they won't give me any grief about going up to 30 feet.
I don't think they will. You could probably put a tower up.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of, a friend of mine's got one. He wants to give away. He wants somebody to just come get it. It's two 22-foot sections at telescope.
Well, you should get that.
No, it's too heavy for me. It's real heavy duty. It looks like it, you know, I went over and looked at it. It looks like it weighs 500 pounds or something.
So how long are the sections?
22 feet. I can show you a picture here if you want to see it.
22 feet sections?
Yeah, there's two 22 feet sections.
Well, all this Rome 25 stuff, it comes in 10-foot sections, and I can't remember for sure how much they weigh, but I think it's about 70 pounds. That sound right, Ken? For
What?
Rome 25, 10-foot sections are about 70 pounds. Does that sound right?
I'm not sure.
Oh, you've disabled screen sharing. Whoever the host is, but if you enable it, I can show you a picture of this antenna.
We can't enable it because the host is at the meeting on the other side of the room in the red shirt over there.
Okay, I'll show you some other time, but it's sitting behind a business in downtown Oklahoma City, and the guy wants to give it away for free.
Yeah.
It's a tower.
Well, I don't know what it was. It's got a crank on it like a boat. You'd pull in a boat.
Uh-huh.
But it's got a crank like that and a cable on it, and you can extend it from. And I went over and measured it. It's 22 feet, and it's got a center section that probably goes up 19 feet. I don't know if it goes up the full 22 feet, but it's definitely a heavy duty pole.
Does it have guy wires on it, or is it self-supporting?
It actually does have a couple of cut off guy wires up on the top, but the wire doesn't come with it. You'd have to put that on it. But you know, if you wanted something heavy duty, this would be the thing. You could put a lot of different antennas on it.
That sounds just what you need, John, if you could get it.
No, it just looks like more work. I thought of that. It just looks like more work than I want to do. It's just so heavy.
I'm here to tell you for sure, it is a lot of work putting up a tower.
I mean, I'd have to have a crane to lift it up.
Well, I like my fiberglass poles. That weigh 5 pounds.
That's the way to go.
I just stand that puppy up. And in fact, the windstorm we had here the other day, I went out there and I let it down. I just took me 2 minutes, untied 2 knots, and all my radials are plugged in. It's a vertical. All my radials are plugged in with Allen power poles. So I just unplugged 5 radial connectors and laid it over, let the wind blow. Went back out there 2 days later, and 5 minutes I had it standing up again. I'm probably going to bring it to the field day. We don't have a blizzard or ice storm or.
I'll probably stay home.
When is the next field day?
The 29th and 30th of this month is winter field day.
Oh, wow, it's coming right up.
Yeah, it is.
So are you going to the fire station, Ken?
Planning to. I might have to stay away from the house for a week. afterwards, or I'll hide in the garage because my daughter gets her second shot next week, and then she'll be a week into the second one.
Yeah.
So she'll be fairly good shape if I don't. But I think we're going to have a trailer and probably keep it down to just one or two people in there. Hard to say how many will show up. May not be. I may be wishing somebody would show up. Come work on it a little bit. Work it.
Well, when you get ready to try out that 70 centimeter antenna, shoot me an email and
Well, it's up. It's up. Anyway. Yeah.
have you tried to, you transmit it into it and the meter in the 9700 shows low SWR?
Yeah, it shows to be working. I'm only running about 20 watts
Yeah.
into it at the moment, but it shows an SWR under 1.5.
So can you do a digital mode?
Pardon? Yeah,
Can
set
you
up in a, that's an FT8.
Okay.
That was
Well,
running FT8.
We're ready to test it out then, aren't we?
Yeah, anytime.
Well, I just turned off my rig over here, or we could do it now, but
Yeah, no worries. It only takes about, 15, 20 minutes. I've got it bungee corded to a downspout next to the gutter by the side of the front of the house.
yeah. I have I can't use my EME antenna because it's too low to the ground and pointing up in the air, but I have a homebrew 10 element 432 up about probably 45 feet in the air.
Hmm.
And it's on a rotator, so I can point it at you.
Yep.
Maybe that will, and on FTA, we might be able to work. That'd
Might be
be a
able to.
good experiment.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
That sounds like it should work.
yeah, I hope so.
Well, I'm up just about 20 feet here.
I'll run 80 watts.
It's on 5 military poles.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I might get it up one more maybe. But
yeah, we might need more height on your end if you
Yeah.
can do it. I don't know what kind of trees and hills is between me and you, but
there's no telling.
yeah.
On field day, do you guys do it from your home or you try to do it remotely?
We're going to do it at the fire station. Last year, you could work from home, or you could work the club station and work from home both, and then combine points. This year, if you have a club setup, you can work it for home for yourself, but you can't combine them with the club.
Yeah.
Now, with a field day event, you just make a contact with somebody, write down the information and move on, right?
Yeah, you put them in a log and then submit the logs. I mean, you can write them down on paper, but this year they want it submitted in a standard digital format, so they don't have to go through the paper. They can
So
go,
you have to use a logging program.
yeah, you can download for just like $4 or $5, I think, for just the one event log from NF3LP or MP3F or whoever they are. I've got a subscription, so it doesn't matter. I just download it anyway. But the club provides logging computers, and so we just run the program and enter them into it, and it checks for duplicates, and it does all kinds of good stuff for you. But all you have to give is your section number and your location. Basically will be, our contact information will just be 30 okay. As long as you transfer and share that information and you get the equivalent from the other party, that's all the logging information you need beyond their call. So it's a real quick exchange.
And it has a logging program that's made for contesting.
So what frequencies do y'all work on?
10, 20, 40, 80, 160, 17 is not, maybe 15 as well. Is 15 in?
Yeah,
I think 12 and 17 are excluded.
all of them except work bands. They're not, no contest on the work bands. So that's 10
Yes.
through 160, not counting.
60,
17,
12, and
12, and
17,
30.
I think is what he said, what I think I read, but,
Well, hopefully I'll have.
or VHF or UHF.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can do it
6
on 2
meter.
meters.
I don't know if 6 meters in there or not. I think it is.
Yeah, yeah, you can do it on 6, I'm pretty sure.
6, 10,
Mhm.
20, 40, 80, 160. I don't think 30 is 30.
No, 30's a work band.
Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't think it was in there. So,
12, 17, and 30 meters are not contest bands
right.
on any contest. That's good, because when you're trying to work 17 meters, you don't want a bunch of them stupid RIDI signals all over the band. Have you ever tried to work when a RIDI contest was on? Man, those guys go everywhere.
Yeah.
And that RIDI signal is wide.
So, yeah, it gives the others a place to go, which is a good thing.
So this field day is just for the Oklahoma City area?
Nope, it's really it's nationwide or it's really a worldwide kind of a thing, but it's definitely national or North American. And if you can score DX contacts, that's okay. And you log them as DX. I know I got, where did we get? Dominican Republic one time during field day. And certainly we get a lot of Canadian, but they count. You just log them normally. But if you get Mexico or Brazil or something else, you can log that as well. And some of the people in overseas are working to try to make these DX contacts. So, but
That actually sounds fun. Do y'all ever participate on a radio net around here?
on who?
A net, on the radio with radios
Well, the
here locally?
Ham Club has several nets.
Okay.
They have one on 6 meters and one on 10 meters. And then they have the nets on the repeaters.
Yep. And then DMR repeater.
Yeah.
Monday night. And tonight they have, normally they have the Aries net at 8 o'clock, does it start?
Yeah, I think
And
so.
then about 8:30 or 8:45, depending on how long that net runs, they'll run a gossip net, which is just a log, like check in and just shoot the bull kind of net.
Like we do here.
Don't like our net.
Yeah.
Except here, we get to see each other. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah. Edmund runs some nets. The Edmund group does as well. And they run a VHF FM information net Monday night, and they start at 8, I think, and then we start at 8:15 with our DMR net. So there's quite a few, and there's others in town. So
Well, I've been able to, of all places, I get the TARC, the Tulsa Radio Club, because I can hit that repeater in Guthrie, and it's linked up to it. So
they link a number of the folks in Tulsa link a number of repeaters. So could be. Yeah, that's cool. You get a little bit more power and a decent antenna up. And yeah, you can talk every night if you want.
yeah, it sounds fun. I tell you, I read this book called Thunderstruck. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Man, that got me so motivated to get back into ham radio. But it was about Marconi. And the first radios. I guess those things were beasts. They had to have generators, and basically they were just striking a spark onto a wire.
Yep.
And doing Morse code, but it was just such a cool book.
Yeah, they put a lot of money in them big monster transmitters.
Oh, it was just crazy. I mean, there was so much, and the book was really factual. It was done by a historian, and there was so much backstabbing, and of course, everybody in England hated Marconi because he was Italian, and then the Germans got involved, and they ripped off everything he did. It was just a really interesting book. There was even murder in this. Somebody got killed. So,
Wow.
it's called Thunderstruck.
There's
Guys, I
a,
think I'm gonna check it in for tonight.
I'm about ready to go
fun.
too, Bill.
Enjoyed it.
Man, you
As
guys are
always.
great. Thanks a lot for educating me tonight.
they're going to turn the lights out on us in a few minutes anyway,
Yeah.
but there's a lady here. Here we are. No, yeah. There's a YouTube site that you might like, and it's called Kathy Loves Physics and History. And she goes in and talks about Marconi and Tesla and all of the greats of electronics and history, De Forest and the vacuum tube and Edison. She anyway, it's really rather interesting. And she pulls some of the information around and straightens it out over some of the commonly held myths of who did what and when.
What's the name of that again, Ken?
Kathy Loves Physics and History. I've watched a couple of them so far, but and she does a bunch of YouTube blogs.
Well, I've got something to do tomorrow while it's cold and freezing out.
Yeah. I have to work in my garage quite a lot, and I got a couple of little heaters out here, but on a really bad day, it's a good thing to go sit down and put a computer inside and look at stuff like that.
I try to make cold days my straighten and clean up day in my shop. And I never quite get it straightened up. I get sidetracked on something every time.
I know. I got to get this garage cleaned out before spring comes rolling in on us, so I can get the vehicle in. And then I got to get my shop cleaned up so I can get the other one in it.
Well, I'll start gathering stuff together for that antenna. Hopefully I'll have some pictures for you next week.
I'm gonna have to make a video of it, but I do a real quick 20 meter, but you could do 10 with it, with a 20, well, now it's a $30 20-foot fishing pole. But you could do it with a couple of pieces of PVC. It needs to not be a metal pole because it's a vertical antenna. But I set it up in 5 minutes. And I'm in my garage, so I'm working in the front of the house a lot, whereas previously I was out in the corner of the kitchen working in the backyard where my antenna stands permanently. But I can go out in the front yard with a fiberglass pole with one radial, raised radial, and a single vertical, and I can talk coast to coast with it. And I mean, it's a 5-minute setup.
So which you use the ground or the center pole for the one that goes out that's not straight up the pole?
What I do, the one that doesn't go straight up the pole, if I'm not putting down multiple radials, and that's typical in a vertical antenna, if you run just one single radial, the negative, the shield side of your coax, and run it horizontally off the ground about 1.5 to 2 feet, and make it match the length of the vertical, you'll be surprised how effective that is. I talked literally from I got a contact in Newfoundland with one of those in the front yard on 20 meters. It's a 16.5 foot piece of wire on the top of a 20-foot pole that comes down to 2 feet or so above the ground. And then I just stretch that out on a bungee cord to a stake that keeps it off the ground. And it's surprising how good that works. It'd be a perfect camping, type antenna, somewhere where you go out and you want to set something up real quick. And I used to leave the 20-foot pole extended and hang it on hooks on the ceiling, but I haven't done that lately. But it really does work very well. It's surprising how effective that is. And there's a Waters and Stanton website, YouTube channel, Waters and Stanton. These are the one of the UK amateur radio dealers, and Peter Waters does some really good videos, especially about small lot antennas, small garden antennas, because their English backyards weren't very big. And that's where I got the idea to try that, because he put a vertical, took a fiberglass pole and tied it onto a fence post, and then ran that horizontal counterpoise along the fence. And he worked all over with it. And yeah, it's not great. I mean, it's not the perfect thing, but it is not bad. Surprisingly good.
Now, do you use wire with an insulation on it?
Yes,
It don't matter. You can.
it
use
does not matter. You're right. With the insulation, you get the velocity factor of the wire is a little bit slower. So your wire is actually a little bit shorter. If you use bare wire, it'll be measurably, but a very small amount difference in length. And you're going to go ahead and put the wire out longer than you need, and then shorten it until you get right where you want to be. So it doesn't really matter.
I could just stick that pole like that in the stake bed of my truck, couldn't I? Or in the stake hole.
Let's say that again.
The stake hole in the bed of my pickup truck, I could just stick a pole in that,
People do that.
and then I could have a mobile antenna.
Yep.
I could go somewhere and set up. That'd be fun to go kind of travel Oklahoma and see who I could get a hold of.
Yeah, I used to have a mobile rig. I drove up top of Mount Scott, and I was working all kinds of DX on 20 meters with a mobile rig, and I was only running 60 or 70 watts.
There's a big hill east on the Arkansas border, right along the Arkansas border. And they bill it as the tallest hill in the world. It's allegedly 1 foot shorter than a mountain. And I've always thought that would be fun to go over there. It's really.
I think they have a 2-meter repeater up there, I think.
Do they? Yeah, that'd be fun.
Gosh, it'd be, when I lived in Idaho for a while, for almost 10 years.
What part?
I lived in Mountain Home. I was working at the Air Force Base there. They wanted to hire journalists to do report on some of the technology that we're coming up with at a research lab. And boy, that was a challenge to get the trust of those military people, being, a journalist and all. That was the biggest challenge of the job right there. But man, I loved the work and I loved being up there. It was such a pretty part of the country.
Yeah, I have a cousin that lives north of Coeur d'Alene. You know where Coeur d'Alene is?
Oh yeah, that's way up north. I was down south.
It's in the Panhandle.
That's a pretty
Yeah.
part of the world up there.
Cold winters.
I worked on the pipeline up there whenever I was a kid. We built a 36-inch gas line, went from Crescent, Canada to Northern California.
Oh,
And-
wow.
And I worked on that northern part. We stayed in a little small town. I think it was called Greenville or Greenwood or something, right outside of Spokane, Washington. And we worked on that pipeline from there to Crescent, Canada. And that was some really rugged country, up and down hills. I mean, that place was beautiful up there. I really did like that. But man, my hands hurt all the time. So I guess it was that. I think if a person was inclined to rheumatism, that wouldn't be a good place for you.
No. Were you a welder?
I was a welder's helper.
Okay.
We welded this 36-inch gas line. I worked on the part where they had what they called a pig. They run through the pipeline to clean it out, and about every 20 miles they had a place to clean out to take the pig out, and then put it back in the other section and run it through. But there was thicker wall pipe there, and it was 36-inch diameter, and we had two welders, a welder on each side of the pipe and a welder's helper on each side of the pipe, and it took us a half a day to make one weld. So if you didn't want to screw up, or you had to cut that weld out and do it again, and the foreman didn't like that.
Well, you touch a piece of metal in that cold weather up there and it just sucks all the heat out of your hand.
Yeah. I enjoyed that kind of, I was in electronics, so that wasn't my bag, but I made good money for a short time there.
I loved it up there, and I was so disappointed when they shut down the research lab I worked for. And that's why I bought that Radio Shack. I was hoping to stay up there. But yeah, it's a beautiful country up there.
I went into a ham store there in Spokane, and I was just looking around. I talked to them guys, and they teased me. They said I had an accent, and they said that they thought I was from Texas. I told him, no, I'm from Oklahoma. But they printed me some QSL cards for free. One of the guys that worked there had a printing press at home, so he got my info and printed me, I think it was, I don't know, a couple of 100 cards for free. And I've still got one of them hanging, sticking on the wall up here.
Well, thing I noticed where I lived in the desert area in the south, was they had repeaters on all the mountaintops around there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it was, you could use a handheld and touch base with anybody. It was great if you're out exploring the desert area, because you felt confident to go out by yourself. In case you broke down, you could always have contact with somebody. And the repeaters, I forgot what it was. I think it was #9 or something like that. You'd hit that and then you get a dial tone.
Oh yeah.
And you
But
could,
they have the Oklahoma City repeater here. Used to be like that. I haven't been on it in so long. I don't know if they still do it or not. But I remember one time we was going across southern Utah. I was pulling a fifth wheel. We was on vacation, and we was going west, and the tumbleweeds were going across the highway, and them suckers was as tall as the hood on my pickup. And there was hundreds of them going across the highway from north to south. And at first I tried to dodge a couple of them. And then I met this cars they just hit them suckers and they'd disintegrate.
right.
And so after that, I didn't start trying to dodge them. I just hit them.
Right. Well, the problem they had at the Air Force Base is those things that pile up on a fence area.
Yeah.
Usually they'd have a big fence around a communication tower, and then they'd catch on fire.
Yeah.
And then you had a problem. Man, they burn really well.
Yeah. Well, these things were so dry, when you hit them, they just disintegrated.
Yeah, I remember when I first month or two I was there, it reminded me of that old Twilight Zone where they had the tumbleweeds that were attacking people.
Yeah. Well, I like that beautiful country up there. Spokane, Washington is a pretty area too, but the panhandle of Idaho is just outstanding.
I think, yeah, that's even better than where I lived. And I had some shock moving back into a town as big as El Reno after living in Mountain Home.
Oh, I know it.
I mean, we had one stoplight and everything moved slow around there.
Yeah.
God, I went into Oklahoma City and about had a heart attack. So
Yeah. Well, I live out here close to Shawnee, and I drove from here to Reno and Morgan Road to work for 27 years at Seagate,
So you fought that traffic, see,
morning and evening. I fought that traffic all the way across town.
at least you were facing the wrong side. You weren't facing the sun driving that direction,
No,
which was nice. I know people here in El Reno, they drive in the sun to get to Oklahoma City and then drive into the sun coming home.
yep. I'm gonna get out of here, guys. It's almost 9 o'clock, and like Ken said, they're gonna shut us off before long anyway.
Well, thank
Well-
you, sir, for helping me out. I'll be here next week.
Well,
Hopefully we'll have a nice day.
we try to get here every week. Ken doesn't make it very often. He
No, I-
he
I
goes
used
to
to
the
go-
meetings.
Yeah, I
He
used to
goes
go
to
to
the
the
meetings.
firehouse, but not for a little while yet.
Yeah. All right.
We'll see you guys. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Well, take care. Good night.
Good night.